Donald Trump's former national security advisor, Ambassador John Bolton, is, you've seen live pictures outside of a Maryland court right now. He is now in court for his first appearance after being indicted on federal charges. The former ally and aide to President Trump, turned chief critic of Donald Trump, is accused of mishandling classified information via his personal email and a messaging app. Prosecutors say that Bolton shared more than 1,000 pages of diary-like notes with two family members who did not have security clearances. Bolton was charged in the 26-page indictment with 18 criminal counts, including 8 counts of transmitting national defense information, 10 counts of retaining national defense information. Joining us right now is the Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee. He sits on the Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thank you for being here. Do you see the indictment of John? Thank you. Do you see the indictment of John Bolton as different from the indictments of James Comey or Letitia James?
Yeah, there's definitely differences. This indictment, the investigation started during the Biden administration. There seems to be some articles, items that seem to be truthful and make up an indictment that a grand jury could find, and they did find, as probable cause to bring an indictment. In the Letitia James case and the James Comey case, they had to fire 2 or 3 or have resignations of 2 or 3 prosecutors who refused to bring the cases because they were so weak before they could get Trump's hand-picked Miss Colorado Attorney General to go into the grand jury and get a 14-11 win. She won by a field goal. Normally they pitch shutouts. So this was no Sandy Koufax moment. This was really a lousy offense and a bad defensive game by the Trump administration, and they've ruined the Eastern Division of Virginia with so many resignations.
But when it comes to kind of the narrative that we are hearing, as I'm hearing, you talk about of Donald Trump going for retribution and revenge against political enemies. What does it do if, when we're looking at John Bolton, this cuts against that narrative, that this isn't a rushed prosecution and it isn't, a rushed indictment?
Well, that one isn't, but it makes people maybe think, well, is there something to the Comey one and something to the Letitia James one? And there isn't. It just happens that they had one that they could bring a case on. And the fact is, just yesterday, he had a press conference with all of his bobbleheads behind him, the Attorney General, the FBI Director, and the Vice President all nodding their heads, saying they need to go after Jack Smith, they need to go after Lisa Monaco, and they need to go after Andrew Wiseman. You'd think the man would be smart enough not to make those statements in public with all of the prosecutorial officials behind him, because he broadcasts that these are political vendettas, these are political arrests, and these are the directions of a authoritarian, a guy who runs the Justice Department. Our Justice Department, as always, as Jack Smith said in the interview with Andrew Wiseman, been beyond reproach and would never have gone after anybody because the boss wanted them to go after somebody. This is really a scary, scary moment. And when he goes forward and says in public and announces with those people behind him, it shows he's impervious to public opinion and or unaware of his actions. I mean, it's like a man who's out there and needs to have some counseling. He needs some time out.
Let me ask you something else. President Trump authorized sending federal law enforcement into Memphis, Tennessee, about a month ago at this point, as part of what he calls a crackdown on crime targeting Democratic-led cities. Memphis had the highest rate of crime of any big city in 24, according to the FBI, though Memphis police have reported a significant drop in the first 8 months of this year. Still, President Trump just said this. Let me play this.
The Make D.C. Safe Task Force has been incredible, and the Make Memphis Safe Task Force is having very similar results. It's much earlier, but we've been there for a week and a half, but I'm hearing the results are pretty incredible, and you'll hear about that.
Are you seeing that?
No, not really. The police department have done a good job in bringing crime down. The police department is working with the federal troops. I have no problem with the federal law enforcement officers coming in here as they did in the summer with Project Viper and have the FBI officials and DEA officials and alcohol, tobacco, firearms here to help us and clean up some of the warrant backlog and some other problems. But they've done a lot of meaningless arrests, just traffic stops. Good to do them, and the Highway Patrol who's come in help with that too, and that's part of their charge. But no, they've only, I think, said they've arrested 7 people who committed homicide, and they say they've rescued 45 children. Most of them were runaways. I don't know what the situation was there, But no, they haven't done that much here. And they have taken a lot of immigrants in, and I think that might have been one of the real reasons they wanted to come into our city and other cities. Immigrants who contribute to our economy, that work in our restaurants and hotels and our nursing homes and child care centers and work in construction and do a good job and are needed in Memphis, and they're needed in America. We need more workers, and these are good workers. If people committed heinous crimes, murder, rape, sexual offenses with children, as Christy Nome said, they would go after the worst of the worst, get them out of here. But don't take our workers and don't take our people who are good parents and good people.
So, Congressman, there's also, as you're up for re-election, the Tennessee state rep, Justin Pearson, who gained national attention when he was expelled from his legislative seat as part of the Tennessee Three, he's launching a primary challenge against you. And one of the reasons that he cites is age. He's 30 years old, you're 76, and he told Axios this: Steve Cohen has served his district for 20 years in Congress. I'm grateful for his service. He also says, I'm running for Congress because politics and government have changed a lot in 20 years. We need a new voice, a new vision, a new perspective. How tough a challenge is this going to be? Does it make you question your run?
Not at all. You know, I went last night to the National Civil Rights Museum Award Program, which was very inspiring. And I've been many, many years, but very inspiring last night. And the fact is, you know, age is not an issue. I learned something last night when I went out after the program, and I went to a restaurant, and a young African-American lady came up to me, a college student, and we talked. And I asked her a question, which in retrospect may be a difficult question, but I learned from that. You learn something every day. And if you don't, you're not really living your life well. The older you get, the more you've learned. And I'm not going to hold his age against him one bit in this campaign.
But you don't think there is a point at which one is too old to hold public office?
No, I'm not too old. I know I get up every day and I work hard and I get more results for my district than any congressman in history's ever gotten. Last year, we got a $400 million grant, which I worked with Secretary Buttigieg to get, to build a new bridge across the Mississippi River. It's the largest infrastructure grant in the history of the state of Tennessee, the largest by far. And I've gotten infrastructure grants that we just had a ribbon cutting ceremony on for South City, which is over $100 million housing program. It's just fabulous. And I get to do that all the time. And a legislative group that rated the legislators rated me the 5th among the top 5 Democratic effective legislators, among the top 5.
What's very clear is this is not stopping. This is not stopping Congressman Steve Cohen. That's for sure. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
And you know, nobody asked Nancy Pelosi to step down, or Jim Clyburn, or Steny Hoyer. They're 6, 7, 8, 10 years older than me, and they're sharp as a tack, and so am I.
Good to see you. Thank you for coming in. John.
All right, this one is wild.